And then one handheld that we'll give to Abby, I think, in case she doesn't want to lose the lecture, just in case. Someone's taking a photo of what's on board.
So we've got to bring the mic right now.
Yeah, start like jamming them up, whatever, doing your thing. Jamming, is that the word? I don't even know, I'm making it up.
Oh my goodness, yeah, welcome back.
Can we sing along too, though?
Do you want to sing along too?
We'll copy.
Okay, here we go. We're going to make a little song. It's the official NetHui song. It goes a little something like this. NetHui, it's really great. NetHui, it's really great. We'll loop that. Here we go. NetHui, it's really great. NetHui, it's so great. Keep doing it. Oh, and then I was going to sing over the top. All good. We can work the kinks out later. That is a beautiful little song that's going to go down in history. Cool. Welcome back. How are we feeling?
It's really great.
Oh, you seem a little jaded. And that's okay. It's been a big day of big ideas, big events, big times. A lot of nice guy, though, eh? Love some good food. Never know what you're going to get at a conference. But this ain't a conference. This is NetHui. Boom! NetHui. It's so great. NetHui. Did I? It's so... Is it really great? Sorry, guys. I just freestyle. Comes from the heart. Okay, cool. So, welcome back. Oh, haven't we enjoyed the discussions? Haven't you felt inspired and also like this? Gosh, there's some clever people around. That's what I've found. I sat there like this going, shit. Yep, love that. Yeah, so cool. That was good. Okay, now we're getting to the big bit, okay? NetHui, it's happening. It's happened, nearly past tense. But the thing is, we don't want it to stop there, because if something is going and then it stops, it becomes nothing. That's science. But NetHui's not like that. We're going to keep these big ideas flowing. So what we've got is some pretty awesome people, and they've got some pretty cool places in the roles of keeping Palmerston North going. And we're going to get them up. We're going to share with them the big ideas that have come out of today. And we're just going to find out how we can keep these ideas going, flowing, showing, rowing a boat. Cool. So that's good. Also, here's the fun thing that's happening. There's going to be like Q&As, and there's a throwable microphone. The future is here. Prepare to catch. It's a small, it's medium-sized box, but softish, so don't be afraid of getting hurt. If you do get hurt, just carry the pain inside, because we don't want to have to write up a form. Nah, just kidding. It is good to share when you get hurt. But all good, so if you're going to ask a question, you just throw this pink microphone. It's going to be awesome. Good.
Oh, wow.
Thanks. Okay, cool. Let's welcome up our Big Ideas crew. Duncan and Gina have been going around the hui today, working out where these big ideas are coming from. So we'll get them up. Let's also get up Chelsea and Alicia and Simon. Sorry, Simon. Simon says, that's a fun game. All right, let's go, everyone. Clap for them. Yay! So over on this side, we got Gina and Duncan from the Ideas crew. And coming up from behind, they're coming down the race too. And they're coming around the corner. They're nearly here. It's our panel, and they're coming up. Oh, and we've got Simon and Scott here as well. I think you're Simon, eh? Yeah, good. And it's all good. Here we go. They're coming up to the chairs, and Chelsea's leading the way. Alicia follows behind. Then we got Simon. Then we got Scott. Good. Okay, cool. Okay, great. So, would you like this microphone to talk about your big ideas you've found? No, look, this is not a throwing one. Now, this is the thing with technology. Some things you can throw, some things you cannot throw. This is one of the things we pass gently. Here we go.
Tēnā koutou katoa, ko Duncan McCann. I'm Duncan McCann, City Councillor, and this is my esteemed colleague, Gina. And we're here to help facilitate your amazing ideas. They're certainly not ours. And we're all in this together, and it's a very sink or swim. It comes with microphones that can't be dropped and microphones that can be dropped. So drop the mic is a term that can be used in this conference, and we're delighted to be here to work with our panellists and look at some of these ideas.
Okay, so we've got 6 topics to share with the panel and gain their worldly experience. We're interested in talking about community digital champions, creating community hubs, some stuff for the creators and makers, digital divides, intergenerational and otherwise. We're keen to keep our kids safe on the internet, and we want to have some space for talking about protecting intellectual property. So that's where we're at. Are the panel ready for it? Yeah? That's good.
Now, because we haven't been able to be everywhere at one time, we haven't heard everything that's going on. So we've picked a few things, and I think if we're talking about those things, there's something that's really important that you think's been missed in this, then please put your hand up and we'll come down to you and get some more opinions and a bit more meat on the bones around this, as well as hearing from our esteemed panellists. So I think we wanted to start off with Community Digital Champions theme. So to give this some perspective, we're going to ask Kate and or Nick to just give us a quick overview of what that looks like and what they're thinking about in that space.
Ready? Okay. Kia ora. My name's Kate Costley. Sorry, Alicia, can you see me there? I'll hide my face from Simon. Where am I going to go? Kia ora koutou. So my name is Kate Costley. I work at Te Aroha Community Services, and we had the idea of community digital champions. The idea being that you find community groups, you partner them with a digital champion who goes into that community group that's looking at digital transformation. And now they go into that group with the wisdom, so they're the kind of champion, they're the knowledge keeper, and they go in and chat to the community group about what their programs they use, what their hardware they use, what sort of information they already hold within the organisation, and look at what a digital transformation might look like for that unique organisation. And then they can, that organisation can take that information forward, look for funding, look to upskill themselves, go and do trainings, all that sort of stuff. So that was the idea.
Great, so we'll take that and we'll hospital pass that this way to these guys. And is there someone here that wants to put their hand up first and have a first crack?
Yeah, I'll have a go. Thanks, Kate. Actually, we just had a quick chat about this before, and I think it's a really good example of the kind of approach that we need to take to getting more adoption and use of technologies today that can make a real difference. Technology has been making things cheaper and easier to do, and it's only as good as its adoption levels. So if we've got community groups that need to operate better to deliver more services in cheaper ways, if they can get some help from other people in more of a social setting, that's got to be a really good thing. So I think it's a great idea and we should definitely get behind it. It's the way to do it, so yeah.
Thanks, Simon.
So I definitely agree with that idea. In fact, I really love it. I really love that mentor and coaching space, and I think the digital space is something that we probably haven't done that so well in the past. I know a couple of years ago, I'm in the primary industries. I work heavily in that area, in that part of New Zealand, and we had primary industry champions launched by the government a few years ago, and they worked really well to encourage people into the industries, but also open the general public to what was going on in that space. And I think taking that concept and putting it across the digital space is a really good one. I also think that it opens up so much more opportunity as well, because you get connected to a lot more people, and it brings the community together and creates a really strong hold. And I think, looking at the ideas, and I know we talk about this shortly, but bringing that community together and that hub kind of feel that you're all going in the same direction, is really positive. You can only get good results from that. So I think it's something we should definitely encourage, but I think it has to be community led. And Alicia, you might have a different view on this, but I definitely don't think it should be council led or above. It definitely has to come from community and grassroots up.
Kia ora koutou everyone. So my name is Alicia Rutherford. I'm a city councillor, and just first off want to acknowledge the rangitane as well, who I understand opened NetHui this morning, so that's great. So in regards to the idea, there was a similar concept trialled a couple of years ago through the Community Services Council, which I'm sure you probably know about, Kate, and that was with community organisations rather than individuals or collections of members of the community. And that was really successful. So I sit on the board of an organisation who took part in that and had a really positive experience. So I guess we know that this works when it is partnered within the community. I agree. I don't think it's the sort of thing that you want coming sort of top down in terms of the approach. But yeah, it's just, I think it's about finding those key people to be able to drive it and make it happen. But I would say that there would be a huge demand for an idea like that, and we've already seen a trial successful in our community with one part, so surely it would work, across the board.
Kia ora, my name's Scott. I work for Massey University as an educational technologist and instructional designer. And I guess my role at Massey is a little bit of that sort of digital champion that you're talking about. I look for ways to explore new technologies and sort of explore opportunities for improving the learning experience for our students and also for our staff teaching. Part of that role is sharing what I learn with colleagues inside the university, and there are a lot of synergies with what you're talking about there. Sometimes feel as though we're a little bit isolated within the university, so there's opportunity there to hook into local business and communities, local schools as well, I think, and share what we're doing, what you're doing, and spawn some ideas there. I think there's a lot to learn for all of that.
Kate, there was a gentleman from 2020 Community Trust. Are you still here? Talking about digital angels. So in schools, they had 5th, 6th and 7th formers teaching teachers, growing their skills to be more digitally savvy, and that was a great program to be able to deliver on. So your community champions are everywhere,
What would be, if you could have them, the next steps you might like to see happen around that, Kate? Throw the box that way.
That means you get some sort of prize. Don't know what, but...
Thank you. So I think Alicia's right, this was a pilot that was run and it was really successful, but it stopped at a point because we couldn't really identify who those digital champions were going forward. So I'm part of the Community Services Council, and I can identify loads of community groups, but what I struggle with is the champions themselves and them, the people that would kind of almost help those champions navigate what they're needing to do. Massey, UCOL, students would be great, but they would need the teacher involvement as well, so maybe that's a bit too much pressure to put on teachers. but university students, tertiary educators.
Thank you. Does anyone have any further comments around this topic that would be useful to add now? At least signalling for the floating microphone.
I've got something to add if no one in the community does.
Go for it, Flannery.
Do you want to go? Yeah, go for it.
So I completely understand what trying to find volunteers is like, having spent the last 9 years of my life doing exactly that, to run events. And the one thing for me that I guess I want to iterate, to everybody in this room is really figure out what exactly skill set you want from that particular ambassador, so that you can then hone in on what that community group needs and put them with them. So, I have some digital skills. I'm not an expert. I never call myself an expert. I call myself a guru. So there's definitely certain parts that I can help, but I'm in none of the community groups or anything. I consider myself in the business community solely. I have a lot of other roles outside of that, but I think that there is wider than just universities and UCOL and things like that for people who do operate day to day and probably have that time to give. I do work for BCC, so I didn't introduce myself earlier, but Chelsea from Grassroots Media, but also work for BCC out by Massey there. And we have a database of people who would absolutely, be able to be talked to and asked if they can be part of it. So I think connecting in with businesses like that to find that talent is really, really essential. And, there's great coffee out there, so it's always a good reason to come out.
Thanks, Chelsea. Do you have another comment there, Lee?
I think in the pilot there was a TAME IT company that helped to mentor the volunteers, and I think that that worked really well. So that's just something to remember.
And simply never forget your libraries who have information professionals who in many cases are pretty well trained to be able to do that.
Great. So matching and harnessing those resources together. And Bruce, you've got a comment to add?
1, 2, 1, 2, yeah. If you're going to sell something, you better be clear what it is you're going to sell. The worst thing you can do to a bunch of people is say, I'm your leader, where do you want to be led? So I'm not being critical there. I'm just saying, if you're a salesman, you've got 5 of them in your jacket, and you say, would you like one of these? Look at this. I've got one of these. Would you like one of this? This is what these schools are doing. Would you like that? And this is what they're doing for their voting. Would you like one of those? Rather than say, what would you like? It needs the library, as Sherry was saying, involve the library. The libraries are very good at finding out things. So they can find out in the world who is doing what, what's really working, what are people hot about and taking on. So when you go to a school or something, you say, we've got this and this and this and this and this, or a community group, we've got those, we can do that, we can automate that. The kids would love this. We don't want them gaming, but they might like this VR thing, whatever it is. But I think you need to go in with attractive benefits rather than just go in and hope that they'll think of some ways to use the technology.
Thank you for your comments, Bruce. I think one of the things that segues quite nicely into the having digital angels, etc., is we heard a couple of times mentioned hubs. So talking about creating community hubs.
So some of the ideas that came from a variety of groups were about creating community hubs, and they could either be virtual or physical. A place where people could go and get support, get access to organisational support, serve as a one-stop shop, and access to equipment. So particularly with the creatives and the makers, they were talking about not having access to large funds to be able to invest in equipment, and these community hubs would be a place for them to access that equipment. I'm going to pass it over to the panel now.
So I guess that's something that as a council that we've been really aware of, ensuring that we're providing spaces, physical spaces that can be used as community hubs. So over the last few years, and I can certainly only speak for my time on council, which has been about 5 years now, we've been making efforts to, I guess, rethink our community libraries into how we can utilise those as community hubs, because they are places that people go to for information or for support, and we know that they're well used, and so how can we ensure that I guess traditional libraries are actually equipped for what the future needs. So we've been making efforts just in terms of having devices available at all of our libraries, including iPads and things like that. But also there's access to other technology for people to try out and engage with, things like 3D printers and scanners and things like that. And then I guess also what we've been talking about recently is, this is starting to sound a little bit like a political speech, I promise it's not, it's already signed off, is our Library of the Future, which is actually around just rethinking what a library is, starting from scratch as much as we can because we already have a building, but creating things like Makerspace, where you're providing tools for people to come in and use it how they want to use it. So not just technology in the form of devices, but also things like sewing machines and equipment like that. So you're actually giving people in the community a place where they can come in, use things. Obviously, it's a free service, and it's kind of theirs to decipher how they want to. But community hubs are probably something that we've been talking about a lot, and we probably don't have the perfect answer, but certainly it's about providing the space and providing the tools for people to engage.
Something we talked a little bit about in one of the sessions around education was that the way people learn and want to learn these days is changing. It's quite different. And there's some good aspects that come with digital, and there's some things that we need to be careful and navigate cautiously around greater use of digital. I guess one of the things that came out was that people still deal with people, people still learn from people, and I think education, as we all know, is a lifelong thing now. It probably always has been, but it's more obvious that it is now. And education is social, so having a hub where people can come together, experience these new initiatives and learn about stuff that is evolving and changing every single day is an important part of our future.
Yeah, just carrying on from that point. Information's kind of become ubiquitous, so a lot of what the library used to do is now available in your pocket on demand. But you don't want to lose that sort of hub, community hub, and the real purpose of the library is to share knowledge. And I think it's just the face of that knowledge has changed, and technology and experience is the sort of knowledge that people are really needing now. They've got access to the sort of based information type of stuff, but you can't replicate the experience of using a 3D printer or experiencing virtual reality or augmented reality or acclimatizing yourself to these sort of technologies and the experience that other people have with them if you don't have access to them. And I think libraries have got a really important part to play.
Would you say that librarians now and of the future are the navigators for that information? Because, like you say, there's a wealth of information. It's at our fingertips all the time. There's too much information there, so we need to help to find quality information.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that goes for educators as well, teachers and our staff at the university. We're not the holders of knowledge anymore, The book isn't the be-all and end-all of knowledge. It's there and it's freely accessible for everyone. It's about facilitating people's movement through their own sort of developmental journey, I guess. And I think librarians have got a big part to play in sort of organising that for the community. Yeah, for sure.
Also, in terms of that knowledge space, I heard in some of the earlier bits this morning, people hadn't necessarily heard of another organisation that could help them, be it finding hardware, software, old computers, access to online software, etc. So, put your hand up if you met someone or learnt of an organisation that could help you by just coming here today. That's great, and that's a real connection. But to keep that connection going, is that a hub, a space where we can collect those things so all the resources for communities and organisations are there in a space, even if it's just pointing you to the right person or a different place? Is that something that's of value in terms of hubs? Yes. General nod, thank you. Any more comments out there on the hubs? Ness? Thanks, man.
Thanks. I'm Nick from the Digits Trust. In the both the kind of the digital inclusion and online safety discussions earlier, this sounds like it's gone down. It's very much a kind of maker hub, but some of the conversation there came through that would be a great space for community to support community with even like the really low level people who are coming to grips with using digital technologies, learning from other community members who are willing to offer their time and expertise to help each other out. Do you think there's potential to add that into this kind of space idea, this hub idea?
We'll pass that straight over to our panellists.
Yeah, look, hey, that's a really interesting... sorry, I should have said I'm Simon from Spark. That's a really interesting point that you raise, and I don't think we've got all the answers yet. Safety and security in a digital world is it's a moving target, and I'm not sure that we ever feel like we've got things fully under control. I know, for example, a lot of organisations are using mock threats inside their organisation to catch people out, not to reprimand them, but to try and help educate them to think in a more secure way. I think parents are obviously thinking more and more about the impact of technology on children, on kids, on how much screen time people have. And like you look at the latest initiative from Apple, which has come out in iOS 12, so that you can actually look at how much time you're spending on screen. So those things are important, but it really comes down to the individuals, or it's down to us to have awareness of these things and try and keep ourselves safe, because this stuff keeps changing. It'll keep changing forever. So I'm not sure if that fully answers your question, but bringing it back to the hub idea, I guess it's important that the hub, as well as any other avenues, help to reinforce that education and awareness around staying safe.
I think the future library plan is fantastic, because I think that is absolutely the place where the hub should be created, and I also think that's the place where you can integrate expertise. So, there's a lot of workshops and a lot of seminars, and, they hold a lot of stuff at the library that, is free to the public, or you pay a small donation, you can go along to these sort of things. And I think it's without the risk that's associated with having, some businesses owning equipment and allowing people to access it, and, leasing, or getting a swipe card and going in after hours and things like that. There's a lot of risk associated there when it comes to hardware and sharing technology, and then you've got the risk of safety. I think the library is absolutely the place for that future hub. It's a place to gather. It's still that interpersonal connection. We're human after all. Despite being connected to our devices, we still like it. I mean, look at everybody in the room here. You've all connected with somebody today, and that's still really important. So for me, that is absolutely the solution. I think it's fantastic to hear you guys are doing that, because it's what's needed, and hopefully leading by example.
We've got a comment a question from the floor.
Yeah, just in terms of the digital hub, I just kind of wanted to say, if you just build it, they'll come, and so I think with the 3D printers at the library, it's a really good start, and I'm glad to hear that they are kind of overhauling and like trying to reimagine the library. That's really cool. But yeah, I think if it's there, if we decide that this is important to have, like a digital technology hub in Palmerston North, if you just build it, everybody will come to it, the schools will use it. So yeah, just build it. Yeah.
Agreed.
Nike.
Can I be cheeky and just ask a follow-on question from that? I work for the library. My fear is that we all might be waiting a long time to get to where we want to go. So I'm going to throw the question back to the community. What is the community's role and what is the library or the council's role? I think that's really important that we understand that. Who wants to answer that question?
I think, if we create, like I work at a school, we've got some really nice digital technology, but it's hard for us to share that. So I think it has to be the council. And if the council doesn't do it, then we will end up doing it because we know we need it. So yeah, I just think it's really important. I think other cities have spaces. And yeah, I think, it'd be really cool. If we just do it, I think the people will come. I don't think it has to be necessarily the library, but it's cool that the library's going to do it. But yeah, there should be a space where if I don't have a computer at home, there's a computer I can go and use, and yeah, stuff like that.
Hello, 1, 2, yeah. I'm Craig. I also work at the library. Sorry, it's not supposed to be a big ad for the library, I know, but you don't have to wait for a lot of stuff either. If you want some advice on coming and writing and publishing a book, come and see us. I'm not a hub. I'm just a person, but I'm happy to hub that up. If you want to come and if you're thinking of recording an album, you don't know where to start, come and see me. I'll point you in the right direction. I've had to go and done some massive failures at stuff like that already. You can learn from my failures. There's heaps of really involved people at the library already, and there's going to be some really cool stuff happen. There's also a lot of really connected people there already, and hopefully we've all met a whole lot of other really cool people here today, and we can point you to those people too. So hubs are cool and trendy new things are cool, but trendy old fellas are still here. So come see us anytime.
So there's an insight into our library navigators. That's so cool, yeah. Any more staff from the library need to say something? Or shall we have a workshop next week? No. Yeah. That's really cool. Maybe we can segue this conversation into the security and safety side of things. Now I think was that you, Nick? That was, yeah. Are you happy to give a little bit of a précis into where your group got to on that? The pink box is just there.
Cool, kia ora again. So I suppose, and this would cover both the inclusion, because a lot of the themes ran through inclusion and safety, but we kind of got to a point where it's the community that needs to respond to the needs of both the online safety and people's capability to use digital devices that they have. Was the discussion at the start there of getting both like access being an issue for some people around inclusion with access to devices, access to internet, but post that, how do you actually teach people to use these devices well, to use them to be creators, not just consumers, and to stay safe with them when they use them. We have people who are skilled in particular areas, or it could be someone who just enjoys digital technology and has some knowledge to share, coming into a space like the library, making themselves available where anyone could come in. It could be an elderly person who's not sure how to check their email properly. It could be someone who wants to learn how to edit a new movie and put it out there for others to see, but it's these skills that where does someone go and learn them? You'd say online. What if they don't have the skills yet to go and find them online, or don't know where to look or where to go? What do we do there? Yeah.
Yeah, we have a question for the panel. So who do you think the safety educators should be?
I'm a real massive fan of Geek on Wheels. And the reason I say that is because, again, I work in the primary industries, so it's not easy for a lot of my customers to get into town to a hub. And a lot of the time they're refusing to use technology because they simply don't know how, but when they do, they get caught out. And so, all of us who are trying to help them advance in technology and things like that, we're not listening to our customer, and our customer they are on farm, they've only got time in the evening to spend with you, it might be 1 hour. And for a while now, I've been trying to, because I'm not the tech expert, trust me, everyone thinks, oh, you work in social media, you know how to use technology. That is not the case. Let me put that out there straight away. I always need help. So the big thing for me is, why can't we get a group of people together? And I guess I pose this back on you guys as a community. Why can't we get a group of tech experts together who can service the community in that way?
I feel like for me the idea and the question that's just been put really connect back to the other topics that we've already talked about around community hubs and digital champions. I think it's all intertwined for me in terms of people who has a responsibility to deliver on teaching or sharing the knowledge around this kind of stuff. I think there's an element that it's a collective responsibility. It's the people who are selling or providing, devices or equipment. It's people who are engaging with the technology, but it's also the community around us. And I guess that's where, when you were talking about the idea, Nick, I was thinking, well, just go to the library, go and see this guy at the back. But to some degree, that's where, it is finding out where those pockets of knowledge are and where people can go. About a year ago, I was at the Ashurst Library for some council stuff, and there was a woman who lived over the road who had just gotten a new phone, and she didn't know how to email photos, upload them into an email, and she wanted to send them to her grandkids. She just planted new roses. So she came over to see the staff because she knew that the staff could help her. The staff were busy at the time, and one of the kids from Ashurst School who was there in the afternoon, who was probably about 8 or 9, he was like, oh, cool phone, can I have a look? And then he said, oh, what are you doing, And he showed her how to attach the photos to the email and send it off to her grandkids. And, that's an example of just being there. But we've got these people who know how to do this stuff, especially kids, And so it's kind of working out how to make those connections. But, it's definitely already there.
I'm not sure if I can add much, really. Well, I think it is down to social, as I said before. I'll give you an example of how, I don't know how many people here would ever think to not log on to their internet banking on a public Wi-Fi network. It's one of the riskiest things you can do, because somebody could be listening away through the airwaves and monitoring your keystrokes and obviously hack you from that point. Unless somebody told you that, you wouldn't know that. There's not a course that runs to tell you that, but that's just something. Done it before? There you go. So I guess it's up to all of us to help all of us to be better. Yeah.
Thanks for that, and thanks, Nick, for sharing what you learned in facilitating your sessions. Really helpful. Anyway, next topic, creatives and makers. So the creators and makers ideas were about a maker club, a mobile maker club, a database of and for creatives, an incubator that allowed for experiential opportunities. I don't think there was a question from the creatives and makers, but maybe if I could ask Elise or Sean to talk about what you were sharing with me at lunchtime in terms of the makers and what some of their ideas were. Was it makers and creatives, Elise?
Oh, sorry. Oh, hello. That's my voice. Jeez, took me a little while to click. Hi, I'm Elise. I'm from the programs team at the library. And we just talked about, maker spaces and how to move makers in the real world into sharing what they do online, and how to get people who are online to come out and connect in the real world with other makers. So, yeah.
Ask a further question on that, sorry. How do you get people who have good technical skills, say in making videos, etc., to work in a space where people who've got some of those skills that want to learn a bit more, want to see a bit more, can share and just get that sort of little bit of mentorship in an environment that sort of suits that creative space?
Sure.
Does anyone have an answer in there?
Well, one of the things that really came out of our discussion, which was quite cool and enlightening, I thought, was that people are really motivated by friendships. So if you create a friendship online, then you might be quite keen to meet that person in the flesh, and vice versa, that those online relationships, you meet someone in the flesh and then you can have a really amazing online relationship with them as well. So I think that relationships are a real motivator. And so if we can facilitate either online forums where people can build relationships, or a space, physical space where people can build those relationships, then that's got to be a great thing for sharing maker knowledge.
Thank you. And I think we'll just ask our panellists, just in terms of, is there anything that you guys can add around these creative collectives and how to empower them and how to get these things started?
So I really like the idea. My first gut reaction was, if you can make that online to offline and offline to online connection happen, you have solved the world's communication problems right now, because that is the biggest issue when it comes to the art of communication and how we're losing the ability to do that because of the digital space. The other thing was, I have this theory called just ask. So many people are quite happy to help if you just ask, but 95% of people never want to ask. And so I think for something like that, if you spot somebody who is doing something really well that you really love, just ask. If they don't want to help, then they weren't the right person to start with. And that takes a little bit of effort, but I think that, it's very much up to an individual. I don't think I have any ideas or solutions other than those two suggestions at the moment, but I'm sure something will come.
Yeah, I mean, in education, particularly online distance education, one of Mass's fortes, I guess, we talk a lot about communities of practice and how important they are to development and learning. And the internet, as from my perspective, I've got an arts background into painting, printmaking, those sort of things. And online communities of practice over the past 20 years in some of the areas that I work in have improved global practice exponentially. The quality of work coming out, and it's ultimately down to these communities sharing and supporting each other, has just grown massively. Now, they take a lot of investment, but I think, with the library as a hub and an online community and sort of nurturing that, at a certain point, they become, self-perpetuating. And the people who are part of those communities will support each other. I think there's a lot of potential to provide facilities in the library for people to quickly take a photograph, load it in with a hashtag, maybe up to some social media channel you've got going there. Maybe take a video of themselves as they're producing something, load it into the library feed so other people can benefit from what they're doing. And if you start to establish a community of learning like that alongside what people are doing, I think potential there for it.
Thanks, Scott.
Just add something as well. So our organisation that we Spark, it's got about 2,000 people in it, and it's lethargic and hard to change because it's got 2,000 people in it. And we're going through this process at the moment. It's called Agile, and we're trying to reinvent how we operate a big, old, slow business and turn it around into being just like a startup, which is a really exciting thing. And there's so the rule book has been completely thrown out and everybody's learning again. and people that used to be bosses of other people are now sitting around in a circle working through things shoulder to shoulder as equals. So everybody's learning all over again, and one of the things that's come out of that is a bunch of people learning stuff about themselves they never knew, learning how to operate and work in totally different ways, and reaching out to other areas for knowledge that are well outside of areas that they would have been looking to previously. And I guess the message that I've got, particularly for I think what is needing to be a changeable business environment, is that organisations that used to operate a certain way are probably going to have to throw their rulebook out and start going and looking at things completely differently. And what we've found has been a really important tool in that process has been corporate class social media. So we find that people are sharing information very proactively now across digital forums, and all of a sudden there are connections being made between people that otherwise never would have had anything to do with each other previously. And it's pervasive, so it spans across a number of different areas. So it's a really interesting space where perhaps people will start working more closely and more innovatively in clusters of groups of people that otherwise never would have been working with each other previously.
And those clusters of people could well be digital makers. And so moving our conversation... Oh, sorry, we've got...
Oh, hi, just a couple of things. So the health of all of us is around our social connections, and that's proven in a lot of different ways. And I just want to go back to something the councillor said in terms of the child teaching the person how to take photos. And I think that when my boys were at school, they had granny readers come in, and it was the granny helping the child who was having struggle reading. And I think we could switch that around in schools maybe, that children who are learning or who know those things could come in. And another example of that I heard on national radio a couple of months back, which was a woman who set up a parental group with women with young babies who went into retirement villages and talked to the people in there and helped, I guess, bridge that gap with loneliness with young children. And I think that it only takes a couple of ideas like that to switch it around, and I think maybe technology classes in schools could actually get the kids learning, or the library could invite those kids in to actually have an afternoon where they teach. And I see the Whole Grains Cafe in Palmerston North are doing that very well, teaching students how to cook in there. And I think if we can expand on that as a community, it would really help a lot of people make some more connections.
Yeah, I think we all think those are great ideas. Actually, I was just saying before we got up here, it's interesting that some of the biggest generational changes in society have been taken from the kids in schools, and they bring it home to the parents and they teach the parents. Things like recycling and those things that take a long time to change habits. Often the education comes back the other way, and it's the kids bring those home. But yeah, I think there's certainly a role for kids who get the technology really quickly to start bringing it back and help other people and be little digital angels. So, yeah. Any more comments on this topic before we move on? Okay, so we were talking about digital makers before, and an aspect of that is the Creative Commons and intellectual property and who owns what. So there was one of our streams was the Indigenous Maori Tech Talk. Thank you. And Lisa, you were leading that out. Are you able to share with us some of the common insights that you got to? The pink box is heading your way aerially.
I just want to squeeze it a little bit. It's kind of cool. Kia ora tātou, ko Lisa Warbrick ahau, Smith Warbrick and Associates, working within kaupapa Māori, in particular Māori economic development. Kia ora. Our kōrero kind of expanded, and I do get, it was a big conversation. So we were talking about being unique in a global environment and landed on that uniqueness being, in essence, taonga Māori. That is the treasures of Māori. And to really want to be clear, it wasn't just about Māoriness, it was about Aotearoa in New Zealand and our roles and responsibilities in protecting that. So when we talk protection, we had to acknowledge, I guess, a sense of misuse and misappropriation, and in this context, potentially through the internet or online or digital. There were some great conversations, but we pretty much landed on it is about education. It is about recognising and acknowledge that potentially, unless we protect and look after the unique nature of what we have here in Aotearoa, and that is our taonga Māori, whether it's Indigenous flora and fauna, whether it's our Māori icons, our language, our waiata, our karakia. So that was the gist of our kōrero. Have I missed anything? Probably not, for those that were there. So we too, from here, I guess what we've landed on, aside from the education, potentially forming groups and keeping this topic current and in front of us. The challenge I've put out basically, and one of the takeaways, or a big idea, and it's probably huge, but let's go there, is including or embedding in policy the acknowledgement of taonga Māori and that uniqueness, and protecting it for all of us. For not just our tourism, our economy, our from a commercial sense, but from the unique nature of us as New Zealanders. And so what I'm putting here today is the opportunity to somebody, maybe all those librarians that are here, is to include, if not a statement that acknowledges our commitment to protecting our taonga Māori, at the very least, ideally a policy, and particularly for those digital strategy policies that apparently are being created across our council, our Crown agencies, our organisations. Let's include some form of statement, and we can help you with that. Lanau Tawhiri Huria from AJ Park, IP specialists, are able to provide or support, or at least give advice to those of you who are developing these strategies and including it somewhere in your documents and in your conversations. Even when we go online to click free access, Wi-Fi access, and we have all these agreement terms that probably nobody reads, but probably should. You know, even including something in there about our commitment to protecting something unique in the nature of taonga Māori, but it can start that simple, and it can start in our region to start with. Thanks so much.
So a question to the panel. Have you got examples of how you've responded to this challenge in your organisations?
I guess I'll go first. Kia ora, Lisa, thank you for that. I've tautoko what you've said. I agree that there's a vehicle for achieving that is through policy, and that I personally think that there's definitely a role for central and local government, but we don't need to wait for central government to come to the party. It's something that we can definitely be doing. We've at the council, we've just gone through a new vision and a new 10-year plan, and we're working on some new strategies, and we've got some new goals, and there's a real drive at the moment in the council to make sure that we are I think upping our game around our commitments to Te Tiriti o Waitangi, and I think that's where the protection element comes in all areas, including IP. So I'm not sure how well we're doing at the moment, but we're definitely making progress, and your examples, especially of things like just connecting to the free Wi-Fi and acknowledging it through that is something that, I mean, there's a lot of staff from the council in the room here, as it's been acknowledged specifically with the library, but there's definitely something that we can take back, and I'll certainly be taking it back to elected members. So not really answering your question at all, but just letting you know that's what I'll do.
don't have a great deal to add to that, but MASS is just at the start of a journey towards becoming Te Tiriti-led, and there's a lot of discussion going on around what that means and how we implement it, and that's absolutely something that I'll put into that conversation for sure.
This is only very, very loosely relevant. It's more to do with, I suppose, what I think is probably a growing responsibility of corporate citizens in New Zealand to show greater awareness of culture and diversity. That's something that's not lost on us as well at Spark. We've released an application, mobile app, that is designed to try and help promote greater awareness and understanding of Māori culture and language. And I just think it's something that is super important and needs to be more and more effort put into that. And I guess my ears pricked up around the Wi-Fi thing. Where we come in from that perspective, we deliver and provide networks. So we think about security. We think about what stuff should live in the country and what stuff can leave outside the country. Those things still continue to be important, and no doubt would be from a intellectual property perspective as well. Yeah, that's an important area to get right. Yep.
Okay, thanks, guys. Another topic that comes up quite a lot that we noted down doesn't necessarily have an answer to it, but we'll put it out there anyway, and that's the divide, the growing divide that we see from intergenerational divide is one aspect of that in terms of knowledge, but also the financial divide of who has access to internet, access to devices, etc. But left unchecked, it's a societal divide that will grow quickly. So I guess we're looking for practical ways that as a city we can work together to help lessen the effect of the divide. And how did the panel see that? Any great ideas?
I guess with that one, there's some work already being done in this space, I've only just come for this panel, so I'm unsure what's being discussed, but Nick's from Digits, and Digits are doing exactly, they're providing the solution to that exact issue. I know that they're always looking for, Nick, you can talk about Digits, but they're always looking for funding and more community partners. There's a huge demand. It's not hard for Digits to find families to sign up for the work that they're doing, but perhaps, I don't know whether people in the room know about Digits yet, Nick, or you should tell them quickly now because you've got the answer.
No, yeah. So first thing I wanted to quickly touch on was that in terms of digital divide, and you've already mentioned it, Alicia, that about the story with the young person teaching the older person how to upload their photos. I mean, that is the story that came through some of the sessions I was at today as well, where how do we connect these young people with these old people? And I was also thinking about that idea of how do we build that into some education, take kids into some different places where they can be educators as well. That would be really cool. But Digits, we are, at the moment, I suppose the push is providing devices for people who don't have the ability to go and get their hands on some kind of digital device that they can use to access the internet. And so it's not necessarily getting that internet connection, because some people already have that, but the device they can use to get online. Our biggest barrier is funding. We have a huge number of people who really want to make use of the service, who want to come and see us and get provided with a device, but we just do not have the funding to be able to support them with that at this stage. And if we could have more funding, we could make so much more change. Yeah.
I just want to add a comment to that because I think, Nick, you're sort of underselling yourself a little bit. Like, okay. Digits are putting a device and internet connection and education in homes that don't currently have it. So these are kids that are able to take that device to school and use it in class, which is how they're learning these days. They are taking that device home. It means that people in the family can access, Trade Me and Seek, look for work. They can do internet banking. They can access emails. They can engage in the digital world as well, and they were not previously doing that. Plus, there is, I don't know whether you call them mentors, but there are people available who are working with these families to teach them how to use the device, to teach them around, security of the device, how to teach your kids to be safe around the device, how to keep it in the family areas, all of those sorts of things. So this is a package that, whilst they could pick and choose whether they just need the device because they already have a connection or whatnot, but that's actually directly addressing that divide. These are families who do not currently have a device or internet access in their home. So these are people who don't have access to online job applications. They don't have access to online banking. They don't have access to the online world unless they are going somewhere like the public library. So how are kids doing homework? How are they engaging? How are they communicating with other family members out of town? So that's an example. That's a grassroots example that started up in our community. The model is really good, but as Nick said, it comes down to funding. So there's an element of businesses who are, philanthropic with that mindset, able to get on board and, grants and those sorts of things. But this is actually a solution to the digital divide.
Yeah, and we have a range of amazing volunteers who are just waiting to work one-on-one with families to upskill them, as you said, with those devices as well, teach them the skills they need to do the things that they want and need to do online, and we can't do it at the moment. We just can't.
I just have a quick question around the funding, and feel free, we can talk about it afterwards if need be, but are you a charity or is it a charitable trust? So obviously it's a lot of... Yes,
we are a charitable trust.
Okay, cool. And so obviously your funding is literally it's donations and it's support from the community.
100%. We've got some ideas around numbers of families we need to reach in order to be self-sustaining, so we could run without the amount of funding we need at the moment. But
do you know that number off the top of your head?
No, I'd have to have a discussion later. So,
yeah. No, that's cool.
So, Ellen from Chorus, we've sort of think a bit about what we can do as a company about the digital divide. We're not in the retail space, so we're limited in our options, but we've currently got 2 proof of concept trials running, one in Christchurch and one in the Hut, where we've working with N4L, who provide the school internet services. So we've extended 2 schools, basically their Wi-Fi, we've extended it out to the local community. So the kids can take home their device, and in some cases that device is provided by another charity which gets funding to provide computers for kids in schools. So the kids can take the device home and it has exactly the same functionality as they had at school. So not complete full internet access, because N4L has some filtering on their school services. But at the moment it's more of a technology to trial to see if it works. If it does work, then potentially it could be rolled out to a larger number of schools across New Zealand, or to their communities, because it goes out to the whole school. So that's something we're trying to try and address that.
I'll just quickly add as well. I guess the access to Wi-Fi everywhere is super important, and there's free Wi-Fi available in the city, which is great. Not so easy out in the country, and that's something that the government continues to invest in as well through this thing called Rural Broadband Initiative 2, which is an investment to put a bunch more cell phone towers around the country, which is a really great thing. I suppose the point I wanted to make around digital divide is that it doesn't just start and finish with education or access to online resources. It even makes a difference in how we deliver healthcare. And there are people in our communities, in our rural communities in particular, that don't have ready access to great healthcare. And by using digital, we can start to effectively virtualise away some of that geography barrier to delivering healthcare. So that's something that's continuing to be tackled at a national level.
if we're talking about divides, if you believe a lot of the reports that are coming about the future of jobs, I think it's fair to call it a tidal wave of change coming with fourth wave industrial revolution and automation and AI, etc. And there's going to be a lot of jobs that become basically redundant. Now, I've seen reports that suggest that the people who are going to be most in need of training and whose jobs are most at risk are going to be the least likely to receive it. So we're talking about the potential for this change to basically exacerbate existing socioeconomic divides. I think then people need to start becoming aware of this now, and where these processes and automation.
Can't hear you.
Sorry, where these processes and automations are going to be coming into play, and they need to be making assessments of their workforce that are going to be affected, and start making decisions about reskilling now, I think, so that we don't leave a whole swathe of people behind and exacerbate problems that are already there.
Yeah, are there any other comments on that? No? Well, we've wrapped up pretty much everything that's on our list. Is there any other big ideas that haven't been covered in what everyone's talked about today that you just want to put forward and don't lose at this point? We've got everything? Fantastic. This is great news. Okay, well, we're not actually sure what happens next, but I imagine we probably want to hear a little bit from NetHui as Internet New Zealand as to what their role is in helping things move forward. No? Abby's here. Abby's here to rescue me. Thank you, Abby.
Woo! Woo! Cheer. Cool. Shot, Duncan. Nice filibustering. I'm here now, son. You're all right. Thanks so much for being our big ideas. What's coming? Hang on, Gina. 1 second. Oh, yeah, cheers. Oh, cool. Thanks so much for being our big ideas crew today. And let's give a round of applause to our panelists too. Oh, yep. Love it. Oh. Do you think this lady looks like Helen Mirren? I saw that before and I thought, oh, Helen, what are you doing? It's not, though, I don't think. It's all good, though. Cool. Oh, thanks. Oh, no wuzzers. Oh, you pass it down. Human chain. Nothing like teamwork to make the dream work. Thank you so much. Thank you all so much. You guys did great. You answered some really great questions and I really appreciate you coming in. I'm also very sorry that I didn't introduce you. Kind of panicked a little bit, to be honest. But we're back now. Good. Chelsea's got a cat called Ducati. Simon has a dog called Holly. It's a German Shepherd. Alicia has a cat called Tuscan. Do you have any animals, Scott? Oh, children. Children are animals. I love it. Cool. Very good time. Thanks all for coming. You can probably leave off the stage if you want to. Yeah, cool. Yeah. So, which way would you like to go? That way. The choice is just... Oh, thanks, guys. Thanks so much for coming. Love it so much. So much love. Oh, that's so great. How are we all doing? Stand up, you two. Let's give it a bit of a stretch. I go to aqua aerobics with my good friend Alicia Rutherford. So let's do this thing called the mermaid. It works a lot better in the pool, but you get the idea. What else do we do at aqua aerobics? I can't remember. I'm panicking now. Alicia, what do we do? What's in it? We do. You run in a circle, and it creates a really big current in the pool, and then they go the other way, and then you got to go back the other way. Oh, it's so hard, and so many old women do it, but I love being in the pool with them. But in all honesty, pools gross me out of it. It's like soup, isn't it? Okay, cool, you can sit down now. We're nearly finished. But it is, eh? Pools are like human soup. Bit gross. Don't think about it too much. All good, sweet. I'm going to welcome up Andrew, who's the Outreach and Engagement Director for Internet New Zealand. Let's welcome him on to the stage. Woo. Woo. Do you want this one, or would you like this one?
It's not really that cool to walk on stage like whooping yourself, but I did.
Oh, sorry. Let's do a Mexican wave for Andrew. Starting here. Go! Yeah. That's for you. Never whoop for yourself again.
This is actually like the first time I've been in Palmerston North, and with that sort of behaviour, I'll be back.
Oh, good. Phil.
Nearly the end. As of 4:30, I'm determined that we'll all go enjoy each other's company over a beverage of your choosing. But I want to give an opportunity, right? Probably only about 3 or 4 minutes, which means perhaps only 2, maybe 3, if there were. Was there anything else that somebody else is dying to get off their chest that they haven't had an opportunity to share today? / I love throwing this microphone around, and I want another chance.
If you're interested in talking about if you're interested in talking about these topics, digitisation, maybe every 2 weeks, I run a private event of thinking people that are interested in digitisation and the singularity technologies. There's a university called Singularity University on the same campus as NASA, and it covers all the exponential high-tech stuff, genomics, AI, robotics, nanotech, 3D printing, all that stuff, and we talk about it. And if you want to join us, you're welcome to, so come and see me afterwards. Runs about every 2 weeks, and this has been a wonderful conference. I thought I'd just offer it to you, some of you might like to join in. That was all.
I'm not going to say speak now or forever hold your peace because, well, it feels a bit grim. But this is your moment. This is your moment. I might give one more call of this being your moment. Last moment. Oh! Oh!
A huge thank you to the organising committee and to all the facilitators. Fantastic job. They came up with all the best ideas. Huge thank you to all of them. Can you join me in giving them a big hand, please?
That reset the last call for comments timer. Nah. But I will do it once more. Last call. All right. So, I'm going to offer you people 3 takeaways as you walk out of here today, if I may. With thanks for being part of this conversation. Right? Your first takeaway is, we would love it if you would follow up on the ideas and the connections that you have made today. Where you have seen a spark of inspiration form in a group, where you have met somebody today that you think you could do something awesome with, where you have heard an idea that just has to happen, my first ask of you is that you walk out of here and you try and make it happen. Deal? So that's ask number 1. Ask number 2 is that we have a space that we can provide, an online space, an online community hub that we're building that can serve as a space for you to keep these conversations going. And as part of the email that we'll send out back to you to say thanks for coming to this, we'll include a link to it. It's your choice as to whether or not you want to be part of it, but it's something pretty cool again. And so you can use that to keep this conversation going as well. That's ask number 2. And ask number 3 is that if any of your awesome ideas require a little bit of cash, a little bit of maintenance, a little bit of the greasing of the wheels of commerce in order to help you do something, then we run a community grants round that will be opening up after this series of NetHui events in order to fund those ideas and help make them happen. It is a competitive process. You have to apply and tell us what your dream is. but this is something that we do in order to help these ideas happen. So keep your eyes peeled. What's that mean?
Come and see me if you want to discuss any of those ideas preliminary.
Ah, yes. Vanessa will help you curate the idea too. It falls to me now to build off Leith's thank yous in my own way. And for each of these people that I want to thank, I have a response in mind from all of you. All right? I'll tell you what it is. And then I'd like you to do it, if that's okay. And each one of them are different. And we'll see which ones work. And the ones that don't work, I may never use again. Or I may. We'll see. So, first up in terms of these thank yous, I'd like to thank the Mana Whenua Rangitane for their opening and closing of today. Can I get a ka pai, please? Ka pai! Woo. I'd like to thank Abby, our MC. You're great. You're great. Let's give her a boom. Boom. Woo. I'd like to thank Palmerston North City Council as our local host, and in particular, the incredible number of people that are here from the Palmerston North City Library. So for them, can we get what's something that people from Manawatū say? Turbos! Can I get a turbos? I want to join Leith in terms of thanking the local advisory committee that was set up here and has done some really awesome work in terms of making today happen, and in particular Leith himself. There was a linchpin here, and I'm pointing at him and he's covering his eyes and he's being all awkward and stuff. So we'll make this all the more awkward by giving him a hoorah! Hoorah! The speakers and facilitators that were all over this program, I only got a chance to go to a third of the sessions, but every single one of them I was glad I was there. I've heard awesome feedback about the ground that we've covered today, so thank you to those of you that stepped up to the plate and spoke and facilitated today's content. Would you join me in saying, whoop? Whoop. We're getting there. I've got a lot of thank yous, promise. Would you please join me in thanking the sponsors? Ta-da! It's really important with NetHui that we keep this affordable, right? It's really important that we help cover these costs from organisations like these, and it's really fantastic that they've been able to help make this happen. So for these sponsors, will you join me in saying cheers? Cheers! The Internet and Z team is actually, I'm going to go cheesy team. I'm sorry, they're used to this. They're the greatest group of people I've ever had the privilege of sharing a paycheck with. I think they're fantastic. We've pulled up a NetHui and Palmerston North team. Woo. Oh no, I wanted you to get a snaps. Actually, join me in giving them a snaps. End of applause. And finally, if I've forgotten anybody here, please stop me now. And finally, the final thank you is to every single one of you people in this room. This is what NetHui is about in terms of you people coming in, talking about what matters to you, sharing the conversations and making the connections, and running this event in a way that means something to you, right? Remember the things that I suggested to you as actions out of here. Thank you so much for making this such a fantastic event. And you may thank yourselves in whatever way you see fit. I'm just going to clap. It's been fantastic here, running the first of these road trips here in the Manawatū. It's been a real privilege to be here with you today. Thank you in all of those facets and flavours for making this a fantastic NetHui. And I'd like to hand over to Bernie in order to help us close. Thank you very much.
Cheers, Andrew. Kia ora tātou. Hey, look, I am, you might have seen me earlier this morning when we opened, and I was the background singer. Now, unfortunately, the mana whenua, they are tied up with a kaupapa this afternoon, so I come to the front. So I'm really privileged to be standing here and to be able to fulfil, if you like, the tikanga of the mana whenua here, and close this particular hui. Really interested in when I'm sitting at the back here and many of the conversations that were going on, particularly the intergenerational ones. I have an 85, I just want to say this, sorry. I have an 85-year-old mum who gets information about what her family is doing simply by using social media. That's all she knows how to use, and that's really amazing. It's absolutely amazing that at that age she's happy to give it a go. So kia ora. Are we going to do a song? Lisa? Yes, we are. I think it's going to come up here. Do we all know the song? Oh, cool. Let's stand and sing and say. Am I going to sing it and everyone's going to follow me? Oh, I didn't know that part. All right. The song Tu Tira Mai Ngā Iwi? Awesome. I'm just going to get to know right. Tu tira mai ngā iwi, tātou tātou e. Tu tira mai ngā iwi, tātou tātou e. Whai a te maramatanga, me te aroha e ngā iwi, ki a katahi, ki a katahira. Tātou, tātou e, tātou, tātou e. Kia uhi. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for your blessings upon our gathering today. We thank you for watching over our proceedings. We thank you also for watching over our arrivals, and we ask that you watch again over us as we depart within you. And safely return to our homes, whether that be from near or far. Kia tau, kia tātou kat, te atu whātua tātou ariki ai kukaraiti, me te aroha o te atua, me te whiwhinga tahitanga ki te wairi o tapu, ake, amen. Kia ora tātou.
Time for a drink out there. I didn't give you your boundaries.